And now, what an extraordinary chance I've got to actually sit down and get to meet and talk to Barbara Hannigan, who is our music director for the year, as you have heard many times and will hear many times again. She's an extraordinary singer and somebody who, living in New York, I feel extremely lucky to have had opportunities to hear her. I missed her in George Benjamin and still regret it, but I heard her sing Ligeti. I heard her sing Scerino at Carnegie Hall. I heard her sing so many different things, and I just consider myself to have been fortunate to have all these opportunities to hear Barbara sing. What this festival is now bringing is the opportunity to also encounter Barbara the Conductor. And this is a burgeoning part of her career, a very important part of her career, and something where she made her New York conducting debut recently with Juilliard in Luonatar and so other pieces. Just a lovely program that I couldn't make it to, and I'm really still sore about it. So I'm really, really glad to get the opportunity to say hello. So hi.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. So I could probably, as Ara did yesterday, I could probably talk to you for an hour, but you don't have an hour right this minute.
I want to go hear the Zorn program at 11.
Well, yeah, so, I'm gonna get out of your hair well before that. So let's talk about the idea that Tom Morris comes to you and says, how about it? What would you think of being the music director of the Ojai Music Festival? What was your first impression of the idea?
Well, I trust Tom. So
Okay.
I was in, you know, and I was pretty excited. Of course, I started, like when Tom and I are together, there's a lot of, we're just bouncing ideas off each other, you know, the power of two, you know, and we're constantly, one makes a suggestion, and, you know, when I think back of the way that we have worked together over the years, neither of us can remember how an idea was created, if it was mine or if it's his, and which I love, because then you're constantly in a state of kind of bubbling and chemistry and alchemy. And so putting together this festival, we went through a lot of changes. As I said yesterday, I didn't have to kill very many of my darlings, which was great. I could keep pretty well everything I really, really wanted to do here. I could bring people that I wanted to work with. I've never worked with the Jack Quartet. I know these guys and we never worked together. We've been on the same festivals. We've been playing together on John Zorn festivals together,
Right.
but never at the same time. Steve Schick is another person I never have been able to work with. I've admired him since I was 19 years old, and now I'm not 19, so that's a long time ago. And yeah, you know, like you said, this is an important chance for me also to work as a conductor in America, because I made my debut actually in January, my American debut with the Cleveland Orchestra. And that was an amazing experience. I'd sung with them and I'd never conducted them.
Right.
So we had such a wonderful collaboration, and then I was with the Juilliard Orchestra.
Right.
And loved working with them. Two very different energies, of course, and you know, within a space of I think 5 weeks to put those two experiences side by side in America, and now to come here with my own orchestra, it's just a thrill. Yeah.
So then let's talk a little bit about specifically that, the tent posts around which you erected this festival, and specifically I'm thinking about the idea that you are bringing with you Ludwig and Equilibrium. What was important about bringing those, presenting those organizations?
Well, it's interesting to me that you said tent posts, because for me, when I think about music and when I think about programming, it's as if the architecture, it is an architecture, but it's an architecture that's made of very different elements. Sometimes it's solid, like a tent post, and that tent post can be made of wood, for example. Sometimes the pieces are more made of stone, like piled up stone. Some pieces are very fluid and liquid, like as if they don't have that kind of mass. And so everything is kind of movable and in a flow. And maybe that's why I chose the word equilibrium for my mentoring initiative, because equilibrium doesn't mean equal. It means constant balancing and rebalancing.
Right.
And that's also what this festival is. You know, it's a constant balancing and rebalancing. We're going from big to small. We're going from, you know, dark to light, very different emotions. And I don't remember what your question is because I went off on my own tangent. But
No, but it was just about the importance of engaging specifically Equilibrium
Yeah.
and Ludwig as part of your presentation.
Yeah, for me, I wanted to bring, of course I wanted to bring Ludwig because they're my band, you know.
Right.
They're my colleagues, many of them I've worked with for 20 years.
And it's a collaborative orchestra, you explained yesterday.
Yeah, it's a collective.
A collective.
And it's a collective. So, I mean, when I'm conducting, but as anyone that watches the rehearsals can see, you know, we're working in a collaborative way. I like when people are speaking to one another, when they need to work things out. I don't like to be the control center all the time. So we understand that. And I was just saying to a friend of mine, you know, when we stop and they have to talk about something, I'm checking, is this something that they urgently need to talk about? Do they need to deal with it now? Can they sort it out later? So I'm just watching all the time, and then the things that I need to communicate to them other than when we're actually making music. And then of course Equilibrium, for me it's also very important to show this part of my life now. You know, I'm at the stage where I can help and mentor my younger colleagues, and we can all do that. And, you know, we're all teaching each other. It's not just that I'm the mentor and imparting knowledge to them. I have learned so much from working with them, you know, and we all have. It's an amazing experience because their energy at their ages, you know, Aphrodite is 26 years old. Reminds us, oh yes, I went through that, I experienced that, you know, and it awakens and reawakens things in us that we might have let lie dormant for a while.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you were very specific yesterday about explaining that Equilibrium is not the sort of the conventional young artists training program, but
No.
rather a mentorship. And I mean, almost it seemed like companionship and collegiality is as integral to it, and that it's for singers who are in the first 7 or 8 years of a professional career.
Their professional career.
Is this based on something that you found lacking in your own trajectory, or something that you might have experienced and benefited from that you wanted to share?
I wouldn't say it's based on lack. I would say it's based on abundance.
Okay.
And I have benefited from mentors through my entire life. And perhaps I had a propensity for seeking them out, like one of those divining rods. I could find people that helped me from a very young age, but not everybody has that.
Right.
And I know the loneliness that can exist in that first period of the career, and I've seen colleagues become isolated and slip away, colleagues that I wish were still singing and still performing. So part of it was that. It was to give, like you said, a kind of collegiality where we are able to openly talk about, you know, for example, as I said, the loneliness. We've had guests coming in like Natalie Dessay and Daniel Harding, and both of them were talking about the isolation that they felt and that they do feel in the beginning of their career, and the kind of pressure that they're under to be at top level. But if you're under this pressure all the time, you also need to have the support system underneath. Otherwise, you feel like you're on a tightrope. But imagine if it wasn't a tightrope. Imagine if it was a magic carpet. You know, you'd have a lot more support.
Right, right. I was just sitting here with Thomas earlier prior to this conversation, just really genuinely thrilling to the sound of the Pulcinella rehearsal. And so I just wanted to refer back to your connection to Stravinsky, because that's something else you mentioned yesterday, that you had a propensity for his rhythms, his continuity and transitions. So Rake's Progress was last night, Pulcinella's coming up. Talk about,
The Rake's Progress, the role of Anne Truelove, was the first major opera role I ever sang. I was 23 years old, so that's 25 years ago. And we studied it at that time really in depth. And so when you're that young and you study a piece like that in depth, it gets into your bones. It gets into the marrow, you know. So when I decided that I wanted to do an opera with Equilibrium, I knew it was going to be the Rake's Progress. And for me as a conductor, it has been major Stravinsky works that have really started me going. First it was the Renard of Stravinsky, the Danse Concertante, the Symphony in 3 movements, the 2 suites for small orchestra. now Rake's Progress, now Pulcinella. You know, this is the first time I'll do the complete Pulcinella. I've done the suite before. And you know, we had the Rake's Progress last night, right?
Yeah.
And then there was a party afterwards. And then my stepmom kept showing me what the time on the clock. She said, you know, you should go. And I thought, yeah, because I wanted to be on for the rehearsal this morning, you know, at 9:30. I wanted to be on, and I wanted to be an example for my colleagues. And we had a fabulous rehearsal, and I'm so happy because it was a great way to start the day,
Right.
you know?
There are about 350 more questions that I could ask you, but I am being told that we are running out of time because we are coming up to the stage. So let me end just by asking you about your connection to John Zorn, his music and the person.
Well, John Zorn is a hero of mine. He knows he's a hero of mine.
Me too.
Yeah, he's an extraordinary musician, human being, leader. The way he treats his musicians, the way he looks after his colleagues, the way he protects his music and his artistic spirit and his creative spirit, it's extraordinary. He is himself all the time. I think the combination of the intellect and the emotion is extraordinary.
And it's uncompromising, but at the same time, so generous.
Yeah, I mean, uncompromising, sometimes that can have a negative connotation because he is flexible and he is human and he knows what our limits are.
That's right.
But with all of us, and I mean us, the musicians that are fortunate enough to work with him, he encourages us to go to our limits so that we're not working from a place of fear or lack. We are really working from a place of abundance. And this is, for me, you know, every composer I work with, every major composer changes me. They become my singing teacher. And John has become my singing teacher since I started learning Yuma Latere, because it's, like I said yesterday, it's the hardest piece I've ever sung. It's so difficult.
Right.
And yet it's exhilarating, it's joyful, it has moments of exquisite beauty. And then these virtuoso moments where you can't believe, like I can't even believe I'm singing what's on the page or attempting to sing what's on the page. It's really, it's magical. And he creates alchemy with his music.
How precisely is the piece scored? I mean,
completely precisely.
Okay.
Everything is notated. There's no improvising.
Okay.
The only thing that I decided on were what syllables I would sing. But every single note and every single rhythm is on the page. Yeah.
So Yuma Latere is coming up tomorrow. What we're about to hear right now is two separate programs with a brief intermission of some of the chamber music that John has written over the last decade and plus. String quartet, piano trio, piano solo, cello duo. It's a really, really good crash course if you're unfamiliar, and just a divine feast if you are a devotee. So much to look forward to in these next two programs. And Barbara, I just want to thank you so much for taking some time out. And also, I mean, I know you've got to be preserving your voice as best you can while also being the public ambassador and the public face of this.
Thank you.
It's an exhilarating lineup of programs that you've assembled for us, and we're really looking forward to hearing it all.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.